All right, welcome everyone. This is the OpenNTF annual general meeting for 2024, and I'd like to encourage some activity in the chat. So as people come along, maybe pop in and just tell us where you're joining from. Ultimately, after the main content of the presentation is done, we'll use the chat as a way to give people an opportunity to ask questions or share thoughts. So maybe take the time now to find where the chat panel is in the GoTo interface. And again, just pop in and tell us where you're here from. And with that, we'll jump right in. So the agenda, we'll do some quick introductions, and then I have a report. We want to recognize people who have contributed to the community through OpenNTF this year. So we've got a couple of slides on that. We'll share some information about our finances, the different working groups that we've got and what we've done this year. And another quick report on some board projects that we've had going on, and then the opportunity to have a conversation. So we'll carry through this. I think it should take, I don't know, depends on how long Roberto talks for, half an hour or so to get through the main content, and then we'll get into open discussions. So just recognizing the board, our newest board member for this year is Keith Brooks, who's very much a longtime member of this community and is joining us from Israel and has been on the board this year. Kim Greeny joined last year. Heiko Voigt also joined last year. Chris Beckus from Australia joined the year before that. And then Roberto came along in 2020, and it was fun when Roberto asked me, he said, does OpenNTF want admins to join? And I said, absolutely. And now we've got multiple admins on the board, which is fantastic. It's important, I think, or at least it's a fun reflection that, maybe at the beginning of open source, it was sort of just considered to be the realm of developers. But obviously open source has evolved over the years, and now it really is everyone, whether that's documentation or testing processes or Docker images, how to build servers. Obviously, Daniel Nashid has had his start script for many, many years, which is very much in the admin domain with a bit of a developer flavor to it. So it's a wonderful, Roberto broke that glass ceiling for the admins to join and be a part of the open source community. So,
and you're still regretting that.
You're still regretting it, yeah. Well, you're stuck with us now, my friend. Dan Dumont from HCL joined in 2019. Myself the year before that. Doug Robinson representing Prominic. Actually, Doug probably falls more into the admin category. Broke that glass ceiling a few years before Roberto. And wanted to recognize Oliver and Jesse, who this year are now 10-year members of the board of OpenNTF. So like Paul and Sardar before them, now have more than 10 years or coming up to 10 years of service to OpenNTF. So as a community, I think we should stand up and applaud. Thank you very much to all of the hard work that everybody does on the board. So jumping into my chairman's report, as we shepherd this ship along to help organize and lead the community, as I said a moment ago, open source has changed over the last 20 years. And I touched a bit on it, in the last several years, thinking about what it is and how it works. And if anything, IBM had a significant leadership role in OpenNTF and very much leaned into it and used it as a conduit to test out features and what have you, and of course a heck of a lot to do with XPages in its time, and showed the community what it can look like to have interaction between the community and the vendor. And HCL in their own way has been developing that, and Paul Withers is very much leading that on behalf of HCL. And of course, Paul, being a longtime member of the board of OpenNTF, has got open source in his bones, if you will. And so it's a wonderful evolution, if you will, of going from grassroots and how perhaps many people perceived Nathan Freeman to be in the community as a bit of a rebel, and I'm going to go my own way and do my own thing, and I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to just write this code and post it up there and share it with the world, which is a great way to start. But now we're in a position where we recognize that this is a way we learn, and this is a way that we can make a contribution to the community and potentially say thank you to somebody who's gone before and shown the way and said, yeah, it's okay to put yourself out there and share some code and maybe not be afraid of somebody criticizing your code because you've learned from somebody else before you. And I think that's a lot of what this is. We recognize, of course, that our community has been shrinking for a long time, but we're still here. We're still here, and we're still fighting, and we still want to learn from each other. So I think that if anything, what we as a board, what I as a chairman want to take back is to pay attention to the things that we already have in our projects directory and say, these aren't old. These are a way for you to learn. These are going to run on your Domino 12 or 14 server, and you'll be able to make good use of these projects. And that's something that we've been talking about for a long time and trying to find the time to do. And it's something that I really want to pay attention to going forward. But at the same time, I also want to call out, Paul and I got up in front of a presentation at Engage in April, I think. Yes. And Paul did a lot of work to come up with a slide deck that pointed out a lot of open source tools that are available both from OpenNTF and HCL and others. And I encourage you to go to the Engage website, search on Paul's name, and you'll find the link to the slide deck that we put together there. But just some highlights here. Specific to HCL, opensource.hcltechsw.com and github.com/hcltechsoftware. There's 176 projects on the open source site and 180 repos on the GitHub site. HCL is putting a lot of stuff up into open source and leaning into open source. And it's not just Domino, it's lots of different projects. The entire VoltScript effort is available in open source. Lots and lots of documentation. And what does that mean? That means that anybody in the community can go and say, oh, I found a typo in the documentation, and go and fix it themselves and post it up for HCL to ingest, or make code suggestions to VoltScript, enhancements to VoltScript, and push those up for Paul and his team to take a look at. So it's not hidden in the corner of the background, and it's not rebel anymore. It's the way we do business, and again, the way that we learn. So really the point here is that we want to continue to make these resources available. We want to hear from the community, and we want to be able to invest limited time in the right place that's going to help everybody out. And we'll get into a little bit more of that coming up here in a second. Some highlights from 2023-2024. We've really seen a lot of participation, and I want to call it out. Sometimes it slides into the background and you don't really know that it's happening until you take a look. Last year, this time at the AGM, we announced that we had 476 active members on our Discord server. That's almost doubled in a year. In fact, we made this slide last week, and it's more than 755 now, just in a week. Participation, this is referenced on our webinars. We went in and had a look at who is registering for our webinars. Just in the last, 16 months, 17 months, people from 52 different countries around the world are participating, signing up and watching our webinars. So we really are a global community, if we didn't know that before. Sudhar is going to talk about our repair cafes, but we've made an effort now for the last year and a half to have a time when a group of people are available in Discord to answer questions or just have a chat, talk about solutions and whatnot. I've noticed actually just in the last week, our friends I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek. Over at Microsoft, of course, have turned off the ability to have a notes link received in an email, fire up your notes client, and open a document that's sent in that link. And so there's been a lot of participation in Discord on what to do about that. The repair cafes are a place to come and talk about that. And the next repair cafe, sorry, I should use the word hangout. We've evolved that. Again, Sudar will talk about that. But that's a place to come and talk about those kinds of things. You got a problem that's going on. There's a place where people are available online where you can come and have a chat. Our YouTube site. So all of our videos on YouTube, webinars going back 4 years, and content going back into the IBM days for more than 10 years. 12,000 views, more than 12,000 views just in the last year alone. Is exceptional. You know, obviously there are YouTube channels that are getting a heck of a lot more activity than that. But you know, given the size of our community, I think that's a really impressive number. And project downloads, like we're going to talk about this. There's been limited contributions for the last several years, and yet there have been over 19,000 downloads since the beginning of 2023 from our projects repository. And the same thing with snippets, people coming and grabbing code, which I think is just absolutely amazing. And I wanted to call out Jesse when we were talking about this. He said, should we point out the fact that nearly all enhancements to X pages for the last 10 years have been from OpenNTF? And I'm like, absolutely, we need to point that out. So, you know, another opportunity for the community to say, hey, we're here and we're sharing, and you can learn from us and you can use our code. So talking about the coming year, I touched on this a little bit, but focusing on open source. We've been focusing a lot on education, and you know, the general sentiment is, and we've talked about this several years ago, is to be able to open up a particular project on OpenNTF, even the popular ones, and say, did somebody open this up on version 14 server, install it, and make it run, and make sure that it works properly? And we can say to the community with confidence, yes, this project runs on a Domino 14 server. That's something that I want to see if we can marshal our resources to pay attention to in the coming year, and be able to lift that confidence in the community. And looking for input from the community on helping with that effort, or offering ideas on other things that we can do to you know, again, highlight the projects that we do have. With respect to HCL relations, we've actually just been speaking to Thomas Hampel about integration in the Domino marketplace, but that's a conversation that started more than a year ago. So what we expect to do is to have our projects highlighted in the Domino marketplace with links directly back to OpenNTF for people to come. So just another way to find projects. You know, the Domino marketplace is going to receive some focus from HCL, and people who are new to the community who maybe don't know OpenNTF, well, here's an opportunity for them to go looking in the place that they've been told to go and look for help and projects that will ultimately link them back to OpenNTF and open their eyes to all of the other things that are available from OpenNTF. And last year we started a conversation with HCL about the Domino developer community. That conversation continued this year, and it's maybe not moving super fast, but we're very much engaged with HCL about how we can participate in what they are building from a Domino developer community standpoint. Obviously, as I said before, we've got to focus on education with respect to webinars and hangouts, and making resources available to people in the community. Not only making resources available to people in the community to answer questions, but providing a place where people can come and talk, because it isn't, you know, the people on the board of OpenNTF aren't OpenNTF. The community, everyone is OpenNTF. And if you participate in a webinar, if you just come and watch a webinar, you are OpenNTF. You are somebody who has an interest, who perhaps has solved a problem that somebody else is asking a question about that nobody on the board has ever seen before, and you have the ability to make that contribution. So really, this is more about facilitation than it is any sort of come and ask us the questions and we've got the answers for you. This is really more about having a conversation. And for the coming year too, feedback, I'm pretty sure my next slide is my call to action. So wanting to find out what it is that you would like to see from us as a community. How can we help facilitate those things, whether that's more content with respect to webinars and other education ideas, whether that's projects, or even I literally had this conversation yesterday with one of my colleagues in Canada who has been doing notes for 25 years and talking very specifically about this notes link problem that Microsoft has created for us. And he says, I'm working on a solution. And I said, okay, well, when, if you're interested in sharing that with the community, let me know and we can help put it together. And he says, for years I've just been afraid of negative feedback from the community. And I'm like, okay, well, I can help you with that. The board can help you with that. People, I know that there are lots and lots of people. In fact, there was another person at the Hangout in person that we had live at Engage who more or less expressed the exact same sentiment. I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm not really comfortable speaking to a group of people. And we're like, okay, well, we're friendly. You're here, and it's not that bad. Let's try and find how to make people comfortable sharing what they know, because we all have something to share. So please give us some feedback on that. We would love to hear from people on what it is that's holding you back from sharing what you know. That's what we're looking for. What can we make easier? What other ideas are there that people are looking for? One of the other really interesting things that came out of Engage was there were 3 separate conversations, 3 separate presentations about AI integration with Domino. And we think that, there may be this mindset that there isn't anything new to learn about Domino, but there's a business partner who gave a presentation and was talking about it on the showcase floor that has done integration between Domino and Office 365 using Copilot, and it was brilliant. It was absolutely fantastic. So coming up with new ideas, it doesn't mean that it has to be from a Domino perspective. It can be from some other piece of technology that we want to do integration with and work with all of the stuff that we've got, our deep history of data that we have on the Domino side. So looking for those kinds of ideas that we can spark and perhaps grab some people who are interested and put together a project. Do you want to be a speaker? Do you have something that you'd like to talk about, even if it's 10 minutes? Very much, we are aligned with, I know CollabSphere, Richard always saves 10% of his speaking spots for people who have never given a presentation before. We will do absolutely the same thing and help make it easy for you to share something that you know. It doesn't have to be an hour-and-a-half presentation. A very quick conversation, even come to the Hangouts, and that's a place where you can share what you know, and we can evolve that into something. And then the last question, where do you go for education? So, not that we want to become an education hub, because that's something that HCL does, but at the same time, we do run webinars, and the webinars are well received. And so we're always looking for topics to share there. But where do you go for education? What are you looking for when it comes to trying to learn how to do something? Please offer us all of that feedback. We're looking for it. Okay, I'm going to take a quick sip here. Recognizing our contributions to the community, at Engage, we presented with a new recognition. We call it OpenNTF Fellow Emeritus, and it's recognizing Theo's contributions to the community, or will evolve into recognizing long-term contributions to the community. Theo happens to be the first. Our project contributors listed here, and there's a lot of them, so I'm not going to speak to them all, but these are people who have made project contributions since the beginning of 2023, whether that's an update to an existing project or a new project. This means that there is activity, that OpenNTF isn't just a quiet place anymore. People are updating stuff and contributing stuff, and we thank everyone for their contributions. And our webinar presenters, again, a very long list. And this is fantastic. In fact, coming up in July this month, we're running 2 webinars because we've got a long list of people who are interested in presenting. And interestingly enough, sometimes there's a problem with timing and stuff when we need to quickly switch things around, and people are very accommodating. But it just shows everybody's willingness to step up and be a part of the community and share what they know. And you know, again, the follow-on views after those webinars hit YouTube are fantastic. And Jesse will smile at this, but the number one asked question during a webinar is this webinar being recorded? So obviously people are wanting to take this information and go back and refer to it later. So again, thank you very much to everyone in the community who contributes to the webinar speaker. Okay, I'm going to be quiet for a second. I'll hand over to Keith, and you can share some information about our finances for the last year.
All right, thanks, Graham. So 2023, we did not really get any funding from anybody. We also didn't do any webinar advertising. So really our income was purely interest, which unfortunately doesn't help us given the expenses we had last year, which were pretty sizable. We backed, I think, 4 different conferences or 4 different events that occurred. So that's where most of the money that we have goes to. The rest goes mostly to corporate fee, structure, domain stuff, software, that kind of thing. Going forward this year, we haven't quite spent the same amount of money, but we are sponsoring the events in places that we can. And we once again have asked for funding from HCL, which hopefully they will do so in light of the fact that this year the HCL ambassadors got swag, so maybe the marketing team is looking at all of us favorably and will give us something to look forward to and keep us going for a few more years. Expense-wise, probably going to be about the same. I wouldn't say as high as it was last year.
I don't expect that. No.
I think we'll probably be closer to about 5. I think we'll be closer to about 5,000 to 6,000 this year. There were reasons why we did some things last year, but whatever the case. And we're trying to do the things best we can to raise money. You know, things like webinar advertising or website advertising are still out there for people who want to be a part of that. And there's some other things which internally we've been discussing that haven't quite been defined entirely, but as those do get defined, hopefully we'll bring those out for everybody, and that will allow us to at least somewhat, you know, make some money as well and us going with the things we need. So thanks, Graham.
Yeah, thank you. And as always, if people have questions about things, jump in the chat and ask away. And if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, Discord is the way to get in touch with us. And by all means, ask those questions. There's nothing to hide. Okay, Jesse, I'll ask you to give your report on contributor relations.
Sure thing. So yeah, with contributor relations, I mean, admittedly we had fewer than last year, but we still have a kind of regular roll of projects coming in. So we had 13 releases over 9 distinct projects. So 3 of those were new. You know, it is what it is. We're getting things. You know, there's usually something new, and so obviously we can always go for more projects. Even, you know, they don't all have to be giant, you know, platform updates or massive things. We're always looking for, in particular, you know, well, just anything, but also like we want to do things outside of Domino as well, like other HCL projects and things like that. It gets a little trickier whenever people are wondering, like, hey, can we host like a Ultimex thing? Can we host a Leap thing? Yeah, I mean, why not? And so we want to be able to do that stuff. So as always, I want to encourage people to, if you have any little, well, if it's little, that goes over to snippets, but for, you know, any kind of useful project, you just, you know, you have it for your own use, your own kind of utility project that somebody else might use, you may as well post it. Even if nobody uses it, they could use it as a source example, and learn something from it, you know, use that as a basis for their own sort of thing. That's what it's there for. And then in the coming year, we have a couple things going. You may recognize the working to smooth the sign-up process from last year. So that will indicate that that's not done yet. That's kind of wrapped into the overall website project, which is very slow going since it's a very volunteer thing. That's, you know, we all have everything else to do. But that is still the case. Like, you know, it was originally based on the Eclipse Foundation's, you know, old style sign-up process, which was even more archaic than what we have now, but they have since improved, and we can improve as well. But beyond that, we want to do things, and we've talked about this internally for a good while now, make things friendlier. For example, if you use GitHub or another Git repository, we could do things like have tags or releases flow into the IP process. We're always reticent for doing that because part of the main point is that things that are flagged as approved in the IP process have had their like dependencies checked for big things like, does it include any GPL code that you forgot to mention, which would be problematic for your company potentially. So we can't just have them flow right in, but we want to make things a little smoother. We can do more there, and that's definitely something we're looking into. And Graham had mentioned the Domino Marketplace. There's a related subject internally, which is that we want to improve our project metadata. So, back when it all started, there was actually more metadata that we collected than we do now, and we can get back to that. But things like what was the last version of Domino or Notes or whatever product this was tested on. So do we know it's working? Like usually with Domino and Notes, it will work, but you want to know when it was last tested, or like, does it have a minimum? Does it have a maximum? Some of them might. So we want to include more metadata about like what it's for, what kind of uses, what its dependencies are, that sort of thing. And so those are things that some of it we could have been collecting, but we're in some of it we've never been collecting. And we would love to have more of that just so that we can have a better example of, here's the stuff we know is good. Here's the stuff that, here's what you would have to know about it without necessarily having to look in the README, which will be formatted differently for every project. So we would like to have some more nicely dealt with metadata for that. And so that's stuff that you can look for. That's naturally also going to be tied to the new website and all that. So we are looking to improve these things because it's a little stark right now. It does get the job done, especially for the projects we have, but we'd like to make these things nicer and improve these things. So that's what we can look forward to in the next year.
Thanks, Jesse. Next up is Kim with our technical working group. Go ahead, Kim.
Sure. I know many of you have noticed that we've had server stability issues over the past year. It's something that's been very concerning to us. What we basically found is we had a situation where we had something on this current prior servers, and what was happening is the database titles and the replica IDs would be changed, but the actual database file names and luckily their contents were not. So we had a very complex situation on our hands. We ruled out everything that we could. We analyzed all the logs and looked to see there was nothing nefarious on the Domino side that we could see that was running. No rogue agents or anything like that. We looked at the operating system level. We didn't actually see anything that appeared to be an issue. We did end up finding out that the antivirus software was not running, so we had that re-enabled. And that did find a number of files that needed to be removed. Those were removed. That had no impact in preventing the situation from recurring. We disabled cluster symmetry, and the problem still continued. So we decided that what we needed to do was basically create a new server environment, a new infrastructure. So we went ahead and did that. And actually, a lot of times you have to have a problem to move forward. So OpenNTF has been around for many, many years. And this gave us a really great opportunity to actually go ahead and clean up a lot of things. So we did a lot of analysis to find out what were our critical core databases that run our organization, and we isolated those, and we built a new server infrastructure, a new server environment, and basically created all of the new databases over there. We refused to move anything at the file system level, unless it was just things in the like HTML directory, for example, or resources directory, but just to make sure we didn't have the same issue happen on the new servers. We very recently, as you guys know, migrated to the new environment just a couple weeks ago. That completed successfully, and what we're looking forward to is a very stable server environment going forward. We are very thankful for those of you that were willing to point out when you noticed that we did have server stability issues. That was helpful for us to stay on top of things. But we are looking forward to having a very clean server environment going forward.
Thanks, Kim. And I want to just call out you, Kim, and Rob, and Doug, the gang at Prominent, Keith, and others who all chipped in and helped during this process. There was a lot of work to try and figure out what was going on and then to go through the transition. So thanks to everybody for your efforts to help resolve the problem.
It's useful
Mr.
to
Sardar.
have some admins.
What's that, Roberto?
It's useful to have some admins.
It's useful to have some admins around once in a while. Yes, absolutely. Sardar, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I should show myself. I guess it's better. Thank you everyone, and yeah, we actually Graham provided some bits about this, but we are slowly rebranding. Slowly, I say, because we still use interchangeably Repair Cafe and Hangouts. We couldn't still get used to the new name, but we are slowly rebranding the Repair Cafe concept. Actually, not much. There is not much changes. We are evolving those repair cafe format into a more flexible hangout or meetup format. Originally, we aimed to mimic the maker tradition. People gathering to share and solve technical problems. But while we still want to do this from time to time, but we are also looking to expand beyond repair cafes to include some kind of informal gatherings with or without specific topics. And moreover, for instance, like AMA style guests, maybe we can welcome AMA style guests in the future during these gatherings. Unlike webinars, which focus, the webinars are focusing on training, education, information, etc. But our Hangouts aim to provide a space for more interactive discussions and also purposeful discussions, of course. We are going to continue to hold monthly gatherings, but also we want to incorporate pop-up events, as Graham provided an example. For instance, if we notice a long discussion on Discord, we can quickly organize a hangout with whoever is available to start a conversation. And we also implemented this format in live sessions. We have done this at recent user group conferences very successfully, and they provided a significant feedback, very valuable feedback for us. And of course, we are aware of the need for more participation, and we have learned that it's often difficult for people to find time during their daily hassles, and therefore we are eager to hear your feedback and how can we make this better? How can we gather more people around? So please share your ideas here or on Discord or discuss them with any board member. And yeah, that's all.
Thanks, Sardar. Roberto, webinars.
Let's talk about webinars. Since the last annual general meeting, we had 11 webinars presented, obviously not 12 because one was the AGM and one was the year-end gathering, which is not a proper webinar per se. We try to have a mix, 6 admin topics and 5 development topics, so kind of 50%, which in my opinion is a good mix. And our idea is to go forward with that, not to focus only on one of those aspects. And overall, we have 571 people attending the webinars, which is about 50 people, a little more than 50 people for webinar, which is not bad in my opinion, to be able to reach out 50 people each month for a very specific topic. And topics, just out of curiosity, if you want to know, the 2 most popular webinars have been those on security, which is not surprising per se. It's definitely because it's admin and development related. We touched several aspects of security in several sessions. So This is probably the hottest topic that we had in last year. And I would love to reiterate the request done by Graham, because, I mean, so far we've been doing everything by ourselves, decide which topic should be interesting for the community, then find a correct speaker and prepare everything. But I would love not to do it all by myself, where I mean the board. I would love to have more participation from the community. We are here to work for you. So tell us, again, I reiterate, tell us what you want to hear. Then who will speak about that? It's our job to find out. But if you give us some ideas, it would be really appreciated.
Well said. Sorry, I jumped in there. The one security webinar I think had the crossover with the REST APIs, if I'm not mistaken, because the REST APIs, we had two webinars on REST APIs that were very well attended as well. And in fact, if we bleed that into the stats that we have for YouTube views, you know, this punches up into the several thousand views or attendees range. So, you know, again, generally very positive. Thanks, Roberta. Heiko, social media.
Yeah, it's been a slow year for me currently with the social media outreach. I focus myself due to very limited resources that I have available on my hand at the moment on a tool to automate the webinar creations and to do some social media activities around it. So the tool that's going to be that I'm currently working on will be helping us to get the speaker information, all of the stuff for the webinars out in time a little bit more automated than it is currently, from which is a very for Roberto and others is a cumbersome process currently from an annual perspective. Also, what I intend to do is to automate the kind of marketing that we do on social media platforms around that tool. So whenever we initiate a new webinar, we will also see some social media activity around it automated coming from with data coming from the tool. So we don't have to do that all manually like we have to do today. We're currently a little bit slow going. I have all the individual piece and portions of the tool built out, and now I'm currently working on getting it integrated into a single now XPages based environment so that we can use it from our Domino web service. And hopefully it will be like of course it will be a project then that goes on to OpenNTF itself as well. I'm currently hoping that I have a little bit of time during the summer holidays so I can finish it off for the tool to be tested in Q3 when I come back from summer vacation. And hopefully we'll have it ready by Q4 of this year. So that's my current plan that I'm working on.
Awesome. Yeah, we find from an admin overhead perspective, just communicating and making sure that people know that we're here has been one of the main challenges. So this is going to help a lot. Thanks, Heiko. Board projects. We've had some projects that have well, move at different speeds, shall we say. But the one really successful project that we had undertaken last year and have finished up this year is a directory cleanup. Roberto, Kim, and others. Rob, do you want to just jump in and give a quick summary of that one?
Yeah, basically it started because we found out that we had way too many people listed in our directory with names like Mickey Mouse or Dr. Notes or something like that, which obviously are fake. So we took the task of cleaning it up, getting rid of all the obvious fake email and names. It was a long task, and Jesse did a heck of a job in automating it. And so now we think that we have if not completely clean, a cleaner directory of OpenNTF users. There are still some problems that are there. For example, a person called me last week telling me that his email was wrong. Okay, and now rather than changing it, he simply registered again with the correct email. So we have some duplicates. So there's still some minor work to do, but the overall job has been done. So, and by the way, if you have any issues with login or something, just let us know and we can work on that.
Thanks, Rob. Paul did some work on GitHub work this year. Paul, do you want to just jump in quickly and summarize that?
Yes, yeah. It's not easy to go through and find out who all the members who've been added to a GitHub are, but it was easy to go through and add a comment. We added an issue onto each of the GitHub repos that are there, asking for feedback if that project was still active or not. And we had a number of people who came back and said that their projects are active, and we're in the process of archiving the projects that aren't active, so that they'll still be there, but they will be archived, so they'll be read-only, and it will be clear that they are not intended for current use or for ongoing development.
Great. And Jesse's already talked about the new website. That's one that is currently active, despite the fact that it's slow moving. It's still one that we want to get done. And this is just the slide from last year. We actually did have some UI input from Chris that was really quite nice. So we want to just have that as one of the other things that we're paying attention to. So by the way, this is a great illustration. So the new website Jesse has in our GitHub repo, and it is all public. So as we work on it, it's all open source and available for people to inspect and participate in and download and so on. All right, and that brings me back to the call to action slide, which will lead to our open discussion. So an opportunity for people to, actually, you know what, before that, Paul, do you want to unmute again? And I didn't give you a heads up on this, so I'm putting you a bit on the spot, but just wanted to invite your comments to my initial slides about HCL's open source activities, and if you just had anything that you wanted to add.
Yeah, sure. We've got not just documentation, but actual code and samples as well. And the important thing here is that it's not Domino, as Graham said. It's not even just digital solutions. This is across the whole of HCL software. We've created a consistent policy across all of HCL software. It was one of the first projects that I had when I joined HCL. And where appropriate, we've got, if you go to the opensource.hcltechsw.com, up at the top, you'll see a drop down for projects, and we've got individual project pages as well. I'll just let Graham go to that link. So as you can see, you can filter on the topics that are there, and that will filter down the repositories under those. And at the top, you've got a drop down for projects, and you can go to a project specific page. So getting to the Domino one, for example, is just /Domino on the end of there. And then you can get all of the repositories that are tagged with the Domino topic.
Wonderful.
And you will notice that pretty much all of the repos there are Apache licensed. That's our standard. And the reason for that is that it means that not only can you use them internally yourself, you can extend them, you can fork them, create your own open source versions, and include them in any products that you build. So just as a perfect example of that, for VaultScript, we've got the VaultScript testing framework. I actually created a fork of that on the OpenNTF GitHub that is LotusScript unit testing. It's Barley unit, which was the old name for it. It's probably under VaultScript rather than VaultMX, and it'll probably be VaultMX Go rather than. Yeah, so if you go to VaultScript testing,
right there.
Yep. It's already forked. So if you go up to the top and click on the number 1 next to forks, fork over on the top right.
Oh, up here. Aha.
That's forking it. Just click on the number 1, hopefully.
No.
No, okay. But on the OpenNTF GitHub, there is Barley unit, and it's also accessible from the OpenNTF homepage from the list of repositories, and that is a fork where there's a couple of places where we're using try-catch, for example. So it's been refactored to remove that so that you can use it in LotusScript as well.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, Rick, okay, so I'm gonna switch over to questions here. Let me power ahead on the slides just quickly to. There we go. So Rick says first, there's a 404 when going to openntf.org/password reset openntf.nsf/reset password. Jesse, do you want to take that one? Oh, Sardar.
No, Sardar's going to.
Sardar already has. Yeah, we'll fix that. So Sardar's the guy to contact, and he can help fix that for you.
Yeah, I made a backup before corruption. Before corruption, it was like not working great. I made a backup. The backup is ready. I'll test it and fix if there are any parts references to the old server and upload that back.
Yeah, the password reset is one of the things that we know is not working well. So we can get it fixed.
That was fast. Just 10 minutes ago, I said if you have problem in logging in or something like that, and we got immediately a notification. That's great. That's great.
Okay, any other thoughts and feedback? Has to be something. Maybe I'll ask what was an attractive topic in the webinars this year, or something that you were able to leverage from OpenNTF that helped you out this year. Other board members, other things you want to bring up?
Dave Morton says, love the security focused webinars. Well, as I said, security it's a very broad topic, and it's not a pure admin stuff, because also when you develop, as everybody here knows, you have to take into account security. So yeah, there are several of our webinars that can be tagged with security, and yes, not surprising, is one of the most hot topics. And if you want to hear more or less, just let us know. I can give you a sneak peek of what's coming. For example, in the next webinar, we're going to talk about email surprising, and stay tuned to our webpage where we will announce the next webinar very soon. but we try to be as broad as possible. Again, give us some feedback, give us some ideas, volunteer to speak. Once it happened, we had a person raise his hand and says, "Hey, I'd like to talk about this," and we did it. Feel free, don't. I would like, in general, to speak about the topic that you mentioned before, Graham. People are shy, let's say. Yeah, I know something, but I fear of the possible negative reactions. I mean, the community in general, not only OpenNTF, is pretty friendly. I mean, I've been living in this world since 30 years, and I've found that mostly the community is very friendly and helpful. So get rid of that fear. If you have something to share, as much as you may think, oh, that's stupid, oh, that's everyone, something that everybody knows, just don't. Just contribute with the project, with the snippet, and don't worry about the reaction, because it's not very likely that you will be slapped in the face at the next engage or something like that, or people will comment that is stupid. It's a very low risk. So I encourage everyone to contribute for what he can, even with ideas, not only with project. Do not have the fear of being tagged as stupid or bad or what. And otherwise, I wouldn't have been here, for example. I have no fear like that. So that's it. Don't fear. Don't think that what you did is too small. As Graham said, nothing is too small. So just dive into the pool and join us. That's
Thanks,
it.
Roberto.
I would add to that if you haven't done a lot of speaking, then ask to co-present with somebody. If you know that somebody has an expertise in a specific area, just ask to co-present with them. And I don't know anybody in the speaking community that would not help out. So there's another way to ease into it.
Sure. We had several webinars with multiple speakers, so yeah, we can help with that. If you have a topic or a subject and you say, yeah, but I would feel more comfortable to be a co-presenter with someone that has those skills, just tell us, we'll find the person. If you want to talk about IC areas, I'll hand over you King Green, for example. So
Good. Okay. Well, you know what? No more questions. Unless somebody has something that you're itching to type in there, please do so. Otherwise, I think we can wrap this up and again, make it available on YouTube for others to watch later. Michael?
Okay.
Oliver?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thanks again, everyone. Thanks to the board for participating today, and certainly everybody's time throughout the year. And thanks to those of you who've joined us today, and thank you to those of you who are watching in the future. We appreciate your input to the community and encourage you to do more, or at least give us feedback and tell us how we're doing and what else we can do. So thanks again, everybody, for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.
Thanks, Graham.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks, Graham.